You are now listening to the Project Kuwait. Where we stop at nothing to bring you the right facts on health, fitness, and psychology. Featuring some of the world's most experienced professionals. So you can learn, live, and live. With your hosts, Meg, Dr. D, and Mehdi.
I'd say all the kids that I have coached baseball over the last 15 years in Kuwait, at least 98% of them. And that includes some of the Americans that have come here where they say, oh, well, he's got his studying to do. And in my head, I'm saying, dude, have you ever been to America? Ever seen high school sports? Ever seen these kids? They are like machines and they still get straight A's because they learn from a young age how to manage their time. Wake up at 6 a.m., you do your first practice.
Wasla's everywhere, but it's reached to a point where Wasla's now sort of taken over, just washed over everywhere. And that's what it is now. That's all we know. You don't play because of how much you practice. You play because of, who you know.
It's like I've seen now in government and some things like I heard from my friends and family. I know like it's hard getting a sports life in Kuwait going if it has nothing to do with science or like anything health related. Getting a sports career in Kuwait is like literally like if you did it, you're going to be like either a martyr or like you're going to be a saint. It's either one of those two.
All this and more in today's episode.
Aziz, how are you?
Good. Shonak Hamad.
I mean, we got a guest today. We got a good guy, Mehdi Al-Aoun, the Project Kuwait.
Ya'ti al-afiyah. We're like doing collaboration together. We're going to discuss wide like new stuff.
So this is a K-tactic Project Kuwait collab, a crossover. I don't know what you call it. What do you call it, Mehdi?
I don't know, man. This is like a mixed episode. Like, honest, I love podcasting to begin with. And just to jam about sports, I talk fitness so much and psychology on the Project Kuwait that to jam in about sports, NBA, NFL, MLB, I'm going to have a blast with this. I'm so glad we got to reach out to each other and actually collaborate, being on the same turf. A lot of people in Kuwait are like, no, dude, how could you do that? But in reality, like we're all shooting for the same goal. It's educating people on sports and wellness and just educating them on what a podcast is. So I hope we get to do this again, man. Thanks for having me on. And I'm glad you guys are on the project. So yeah.
Thanks for reaching out to us as well.
Yeah, thanks. We are very glad to be on your show.
You just asked me right beforehand how our numbers have been and how it's been with quarantine and everything. And at first we were wondering, like with all the sports news or maybe the lack of sports when everything got canceled, we didn't know what we were going to talk about because we mainly focus on like all the professional sports, Somehow we just went for it and kept doing episodes and our numbers have jumped. Especially one episode, I think, put us more on the map. That was the episode with Ammar Mehdi from Circuit Plus. And after that, people are even started noticing our past episodes, recent episodes around that, like based around that in the past month or two. And it's been great, to be honest. And now we're just hoping that we take that momentum and keep building on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And the reason why I asked that is because I wanted to see if you guys saw the same trend that we saw on the project. And ever since COVID started, for us, our numbers literally doubled, if not tripled, in terms of weekly downloads. And it was awesome because I think as soon as COVID hit and the quarantine started, I told the team, I was like, all right, this is when we got to hit Instagram really hard because people are sitting around doing nothing. Let's get the listeners in now. And we spend pretty much all of our budget for the year, which is not much to begin with. You know what I mean? So just to get it out there. And, we did that. Plus internationally, we've seen huge growth. It's been weird because when I read all the stats on podcasts right now, a lot of podcasts have actually gone down in terms of daily downloads. Whereas I think us in Kuwait, for some reason, as usual, Kuwait's the opposite of everything else in the world. We see a major increase. But, dude, what was the struggle like for you guys starting out? And then I'll get into about how the project started. Like people think podcasting's easy. So.
Struggle. Aziz, there's so many struggles. I mean, Aziz has dealt with myself in terms of just scheduling as well.
No, but scheduling, like I got used to it. And you are in a new life situation, in your case.
He's talking about my marriage.
Yeah. So I'm giving you all the space you need.
I mean, definitely starting off, it was first the concept. People didn't understand. People would automatically assume when I said podcast, they would assume I'm saying broadcast.
Yeah, same here.
Sure, like they overlap. They're similar, but a broadcast is always live, and we're not doing anything live. This is all recorded and edited and just put together. And when we actually started the idea, it seemed like everyone in Kuwait started podcast. I think even you yourself, you started around the same time.
Yeah. I think it was actually, to be fair, I think Level Up, Khalid Zenki started in 2017 from what I...
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Khalid Zenki started, I don't know, Launch a Fire, something like that. They launched about 122 episodes.
Oh, wow.
That was in 2017. They had a bunch of influencers. And to be honest with you, I just think they didn't see the download numbers that they were expecting. I think they were expecting like millions of people to download, when in reality, they didn't have the right perspective of it. They started out, then there was Level Up Nasser. He was the first, I think. And then we started November of 2018, I think.
You started, I think, 3 months right before we did. We did, I think, January 2019. And even that, we had a very slow start. And we were okay with that. Even Aziz could tell you. He would always tell me, like, I don't care, man. Like, as long as you keep doing episodes and maybe over time we'll gain momentum. And I always appreciated that because that's what I always felt. But sometimes, there are days you're just thinking, why am I doing this? It really, and Aziz can tell you that.
Yeah, the more we pushed and the more like we did stuff, we knew like we're going to get into a rhythm. We'll get so into it. We can have this enjoyable conversation, which we usually have like alone together. So why not just switch it to a podcast? We're talking like normally, So we did that a lot. And over time, like we have the formula, which is not complete, but what we have now between us two.
Yeah. And, even at the beginning, we both wanted to, I was more like saying, let's do Arabic, and let's do Kuwaiti, and not like formal Arabic, do Kuwaiti and not Kuwaiti formal as well, not modern standard. No, let's just do informal Kuwaiti dialect, talk. And the reason was we're just thinking, make us more relatable to people and stuff like that. People enjoyed that, but then it was very hard where on the social media side of things, trying to promote in English and in Arabic, And there's just a lot of stuff when it comes to like, especially when it's not soccer or football, when it's baseball or basketball and stuff like that. It's very hard to talk about in Arabic sometimes.
100%. Try and explain a fadeaway in Arabic.
Oh my God. Yeah. We just say fadeaway at one point. You're just like, as it was fadeaway, just tell us.
Hey, بس
I kept telling him like, we're going to have to mix because no way we're going to have to stay Arabic like the whole time. There's no way you can do it.
We just launched our first few episodes in Arabic, mainly because, we were getting a lot of shit about, you're called the Project Kuwait, but you're not doing any episodes in Arabic. And I was like, yeah, the point of the Project Kuwait is we want to promote people within Kuwait too, to the outside, to the West. Especially, we have some smart minds here, some very smart intellectual people. And that was our goal. And a lot of those intellectual people work here, and some of them are expats, some of them are Kuwaitis. But for the most part, when you get a physical therapist, 99% of them are more comfortable speaking in English to, describe things because that's where they went to school. And for us personally, starting out, we had the same thing. Scheduling issues was a big one, but we overcame that because we all just agreed on it and then we stuck to it. But I think the biggest thing for me, and everyone said, they all told me, don't look at the numbers, don't look at the numbers. I always looked at the numbers. And like you said, sometimes it's like, dude, why am I even doing this? But then the 20s turn into 30s, 40s, the numbers grow. You talk to people and they talk about episodes and how it's impacted them, especially in life and in the gym. And it's like, all right, that's why I bring these guests on. That's why I do the show. It's for that. You don't sell anything. So we don't make any money. Just like you guys. Do you guys make any money? Like, do you guys have any crossover into sales? Yeah. We're just doing it.
Do we have a budget? If we do, this is new to me.
As long as it doesn't tap into his marriage fund.
I'm waiting on him, like giving up on that.
I think a few times he was just counting that. He's just like, take it day by day, Mo. Like, don't worry about anything. Don't worry about the funds, no logistics. And that's the thing, man. It's all about like, you're doing a lot of this just to be informative and just to actually have fun with it. We all work,
100%. Yeah.
We don't have our own income, stuff like that, but we enjoy doing it. And people actually do like listening. Slowly we're seeing that,
And it's meeting people too. I'm sure you've experienced the same thing. Like I've met people that I would have never come across.
Definitely. Just last week, in our last episode with 2 Spanish guys and one Kuwaiti, they're all trying to bring the WBC to Kuwait. And that for us, we were never expecting that. We never even heard that someone was trying to do that and bring professional boxing to Kuwait. And they are the actual representatives for Kuwait and stuff like that. So for us, that was amazing. And even talking to them and seeing their vision, stuff like that. Even Azu was like, he loved them. I think he just wanted to go back home with them.
Yeah, go into boxing.
Awesome. That's awesome, man. No, it's a good episode. I haven't listened to all of it yet. I listened to most of it. And it's pretty cool that you get people like that on the show. And I think the best part for me is it's refreshing to hear sports because, dude, I love sports, and I only get to talk sports with my buddy in Boston. You two are Yankees fans, so the hate's already there, man. All right. I'll throw down with you guys in a ring just because I'm a goddamn Red Sox fan. All right. So
this is going from right now.
I thought,
you have no idea
I thought you guys put diehard Yankees fan in there just to piss me off. And that
a little bit. Listen, man, you got to understand. As you saw, both of us are Man United fans.
Yeah.
So there's a big hate for Liverpool.
I'm a Liverpool fan, dude.
Oh, God damn it.
It's just because the Red Sox bought him, dude. Yeah, the Red Sox bought him. Like, that's it.
So there's that hate. But I was telling Azuz one time, as much as football's always been my main sport, there is a hate with the Red Sox. And man, I cried so much as a kid in 2004. I'll tell you that.
Really?
So much.
Dude, I was crying in 2003 when Aaron Boone hit the walk-off on my favorite Tim Wakefield. I was standing in my friend's living room. And I was looking at my buddy Dave. I'm like, dude, I don't have a good feeling about Wakefield being out there, 15th inning or 16th inning. And all of a sudden, he just lets a floater out. Aaron Boone goes sailing into the night. And I'm like, it was literally, I had tears running down my face because that was the team. But then they came back the next year and, they pulled off a miracle against you guys. Greatest sports moment ever when David Roberts stole second base.
Man, every time. And the thing is, I can't deny that. Every time I see the clips, I'm like it was like magic. You can't deny that.
Yeah.
Even when I look at the walk-off, man, I actually fell asleep because I was a kid. So I was so nervous. And I think I left at the 5th inning, was it? I think Red Sox were still up 5-0. I think. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And maybe, or it might have been, we might have just scored our first run. I think Posada got us the run. I can't remember. And I fell asleep and I thought, khalas, that's it. We lost. I woke up next morning. I see SportsCenter. I'm like, what happened? And of course, I'm a kid. I'm going crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, they fired Grady Little for that move, leaving Pedro in past the 6th inning. But you know what? And we can relate this to every other sport. If you have Michael Jordan, if you have Wayne Gretzky out there, let's talk about the greats. If you have these great sports idols out there in the end of the game, are you going to leave them in or are you going to take them out? You're going to leave them in. You got the greatest pitcher that's ever thrown a baseball on the mound. You leave him in that 1 or 2 more innings, see what happens. And unfortunately, the Yankees rocked his ass, so, I mean.
Same thing I could say the year after with Mariano.
Yeah.
It's happened to him a few times,
Yep.
And I mean, for me, I always tell Aziz, as much as I love, again, I'm always going to say this, I love football so much. And when I say football, I mean soccer. But baseball is such a complete sport. Nothing is guaranteed. And that's what I love about it, even to this day. Like, even if you're just playing, I've played the MLB The Show on PS4 and it still surprises me. I don't even get it. It doesn't make any sense. That's baseball, man.
It's definitely a tough game. And if you don't know the game and you didn't grow up around it, you're never really going to, I don't think, appreciate some of the plays that are made. And you'll think it's like watching grass grow for some people. This is my wife. Like, she's like, oh, this is so boring. But for me, I see a fly ball, someone, running 300 feet to catch it. I'm like, dude, that's amazing. That's an amazing feat of athleticism right there.
Definitely.
It's the same goes for soccer too, or football. It's a beautiful sport. Personally, I fell out of love with it in 2000, 2002. Not really sure why. I just stopped watching it and started paying more attention to baseball and hockey at that time. And I've always been a baseball player. So, I mean, but you guys, football, like, what's going on there right now? You guys got stands with no people in it. They're faking noise and stuff. Well, what the hell's up with that?
And
they took that from baseball in Korea, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I just have been keeping up. Basically, they're like, yeah, finish the season. And we're just like wondering, what about the players? They're like going to test positive. And they're like, no, just finish the season.
There's still people testing positive, man.
There are players who are afraid of even. There are some who said they would refuse to play because of their kids. They don't want to put in danger their families and their kids. But, they're going for it. And it's even weirder that once the leagues in Europe, they said they're going to continue. The UEFA, which is the European, the federation, they said, oh yeah, the Champions League, you guys get to continue in August. And then they're like wondering, when do the players get a break? Like, that's so weird.
Right. What's your take on the NBA? Yesterday, I was in a sports chat with Kafo, I don't know, some sports cultural thing here in Kuwait. And I just went on to help out a friend, and they were talking about sports and sports starting up and gyms starting up. And I had said, look, the world's starting to move on. MLB just announced that they're going to start July 23rd, I think, or 27th. The NBA said they're going to finish the playoffs. The NHL said they're going to finish the playoffs. So, like, why are we still, right now it's chaos. The world's moving on. Like, that's it. You have to move on. Gyms are going to reopen. And they were like, oh, yeah, but Orlando, they're refusing to get on the court. And I said, yeah, but look at what happened in MLB. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. In the MLB, they were arguing about money. And I'm assuming every other sport is the same, especially basketball.
Yeah. Basketball's a kind of different beast right now because mostly the whole consensus is one side wants to do the whole political stuff that's going on there and want to focus on it. And the other side just wants to be safe and like to be away from coronavirus. So like even like yesterday, like a huge piece of the Lakers team, Avery Bradley, like said, I'm not going to go. Like I'm out. He just announced it yesterday, I think.
Yeah. NBA, man, it's weird because that's sort of now the league that's in the spotlight. A big part of sort of pop culture is and mixed with the NBA now. It's very interesting to see where you have some players saying it doesn't seem right we should play, especially during a moment like this, not just because of COVID, because of Black Lives Matter. On the other hand, others are pointing to like the leaders of the league, like LeBron James, stuff like that. They're saying he's done a lot for the community and he's still going to play. Like, why should you not play? And so people are pointing fingers left, right, and center. Nobody's really on one thing. Like you said, with baseball, it was all about money and the players all want to play. There's a different story there. It's very unique with NBA.
NBA, it's still, and this is why I said, when we talked about doing the show, I was like, I'd love to do a crossover, then get talking a little bit about CrossFit, because there have been PR blunders in every single sport. And I was talking to my buddy just the other day about this with the NBA, that it reminds me of baseball in 1994 when they had the players' strike.
Oh, yeah.
They couldn't reach an agreement. There was the strike. But what did MLB do? They brought in the guys from, their farm systems, and They were playing the games to finish off the season. And I think, at this point, if you're a professional sports athlete and you're foregoing the remainder of your season, that team should be allowed to bring up other players, their second string squad or whatever it is, in soccer and in all the other sports. Bring in the second string squad. Who cares? Sports, we know sports brings people together. I think we can all agree on that. When your city's team wins a championship, I don't care what color you are, black, white, red, green, you're going to go out and celebrate. And it gives us all a common factor that we can relate to. And right now, I think in America especially, once sports gets back in, hopefully that will help that political mess that's going on over there.
You were spot on because now I'm thinking, just this morning, actually, I was just thinking, Liverpool won last night and now they need, I think, one more win and that's it. And they haven't won in, I think, 30 years or more. So imagine what the scene is going to be like in Liverpool itself, in the city, once that team wins their first league in I don't know how many years and decades.
Probably
and that just shows...
going to be off.
You're going to have the biggest spike in COVID-19 cases in England.
Exactly. I think people also don't forget that. And and Kuwait, I think why you always say we're the opposite. It's because Kuwait, this is where my degree sort of just always takes over because I'm an IR major and I always see it this way. As a society, as a country, as a government, we've always made ourselves a very secure and safe country. We've always provided for the citizens, stuff like that, all the different social welfare programs, all the scholarships, everything. Sports is never sort of a big part of our economy. It's always education and trying to gain knowledge. And now we're trying to bring out knowledge. We're still not there, but we have individuals trying to get there.
Yeah.
Sports in other countries, UK, US especially, they drive their economies, and that's a big thing as well. As much as the players, we want to see them play as well. You're going to see people who are going to have jobs now because they get to go back and work at stadium, whatever job they have as a caretaker or whatever, It's so interesting. There's so many little facets to it. And I think once it's back, it's really going to bring people together, but also there's a lot of positivity that comes out of it. A lot of good results in terms of just financial or economic aspects.
100%. And dude, you hit on such a good point when you were talking about Kuwait and us not being a sports society. And personally, look, I've coached in the States. I've coached baseball here. And we are a country, thank God, alhamdulillah, of privilege. And we have things a little bit easier than other countries. So we don't necessarily have the private ownership to drive sports. We don't have the private clubs. Let's see, all these guys are funded by the government. All the salaries are pretty much one. Maybe you'll get sponsorships here or there for the top tier. But what's the real incentive? Where's the real incentive for a kid to spend his day and night playing a sport to get to the pros, to get out of the ghetto? Where's that incentive here? You don't see
passion. That's it.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
Just passion.
the thing is, or think about it, it's not just what is incentive physically. It's almost hard to bring that incentive because kids in Kuwait are also very well off, you could say, for the most part. Kuwaiti citizens, at least I could say that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the sports, the government sports, most of them are Kuwaiti kids. I think there's a rule you can only have like 3 non-Kuwaiti kids or adults,
like
athletes. I don't know. I want to ask you, Mehdi, before I go on, but like, how many parents have you met while you're coaching who sort of tell you like they're interested for their kids, they want their kids to do well, but they sort of hint at that this should only be a hobby?
Oh, I'd say all the kids that I have coached baseball over the last 15 years in Kuwait, at least 98% of them. And that includes some of the Americans that have come here where they say, oh, well, he's got his studying to do. Oh, well, he's got this. Oh, he's got exams this week. And in my head, I'm saying, dude, have you ever been to America? Have you ever seen high school sports? Have you ever seen these kids? They are like machines and they still get good grades. They still get straight A's because they learn from a young age how to manage their time. Wake up at 6 a.m., you do your first practice. Go to school, finish. You do your practice afterwards. And then from like 5 to 8 or 5 to 9, you're studying. That's typically some of the high caliber lifestyles. And then if you get to college, obviously we all know, they're taking basket weaving to get their degree and getting straight A's to stay on the football field. Yeah. Like the only time I got A's in college, and this was when I was in America, was when my baseball coach called me in and he goes, look, I can't let you on the field. And I said, why? He goes, you don't meet the requirements. You don't have the GPA to get back on the field. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, what do you mean? I got, I thought it was, whatever my GPA was. He was like, yeah, but you don't have the credits. You missed 3 credits last semester. It's like, okay, fine. Doubled up on summer, brought my GPA up to a 2.8. And I was like, all right, dude, I'm ready to rock and roll. But that mentality, I don't think resonates here, and especially with the parents, because they drive that study. But what they don't understand is if your kid is good at sports, he'll be a very well-rounded individual.
For me, I always believe that. And the problem is, it's not that I don't believe that. And I feel like it's gone on the environment around sports in Kuwait, especially when you see the professional guys. It's reached to a point where some of those guys who used to play maybe in the 90s and the 70s and the 80s go on and tell their kids, this sport did nothing for me. Go get your degree.
There's
and I've heard
hope.
that.
Yeah, that's 100% true, man.
And on top of that, when I played Talaman it was just half a season, but I did get registered, which is tough. Like I was surprised as well that they did give me that chance. So we were under 20 and we'd sometimes train with the sort of the pro guys or the first team guys, they're playing the actual league in Kuwait. And I see a lot of them, and mostly the Kuwaitis I'm talking about here, they have day jobs. And some of them come from day jobs to code training. Some of them miss practice because they might work in the police station or whatever. They might be cops, whatever, and they have shifts. They can't leave their spot, Some of them, they ditch out because they're exhausted mentally. And I think it reaches a point where as much as they want to show that they're committed, they're sort of deflated. Back then I was young, so I was 20. I was still, because I grew up abroad a lot, I was still on that, just go to practice every day, go, work hard, everything, and it will all work out. And it didn't work out, not because there's a lot of other stuff, politics and stuff like that. But the point is, the environment with sports is in Kuwait, you don't really guarantee anything because the system's just broken.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. I don't know, if you've seen anything else.
Well, more like not like you when you went there. And this, I know from, like I've seen now in government, and some things like I heard from my friends and from my family. I know like it's hard getting a sports life in Kuwait going if it has nothing to do with science or like anything like health related. Like getting a sports career in Kuwait is like literally like if you did it, you're gonna be like either a martyr or like you're gonna be a saint. It's either one of those two.
It's true, dude. How do you fight through the wasla though? I never talk politics. First off, but I'm just gonna say first off, how do you fight the wasla? There's no way around it. I mean, I could go and air out the dirty laundry of the sports that I've coached in and, the facilities that I've worked in and the people that I've worked with at high levels. And I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say, look at the entire system. It's completely broken. It needs to be reshuffled. It needs to be completely privatized where it is financially driven. And with younger kids, there needs to be NGOs, nonprofit organizations like we used to have, like, Little League. Little Leagues are nonprofit. Yes, there's been scandals, there's been embezzlements and whatever else, but that's going to happen anywhere in the world. So to me, it's just like you need to burn it all down and rebuild the entire system. 100%. And you're right. You guys hit the nail right on the nose.
And definitely. I mean, like you said, it's broken. And not just that, it's WASLA's everywhere, but it's reached to a point where WASLA's now sort of taken over, just washed over everywhere. And that's what it is now. That's all we know. You don't play because of how much you practice. You play because of, who you know.
Man, you know how many times I've been handed a list and said, hey, these guys need to be on the first team? Do you know how many times that's happened to me? I was blackballed a couple times because I was like, no, dude, these players, no. I was like, you can't.
So as a coach or as a player?
As a coach. Oh, wow. As a coach, yeah. And when that happens, you're put in such a tough spot that you can't, it's sometimes for me now, it's better to be out of the sports industry because of all the shit that I've seen and the crap that I don't want to see. And hopefully my kid never has to go through. And if he's ever good at a sport, God knows he's not staying in Kuwait. If he's really good and shows promise in a sport, I've already told my wife, I said, look, we're shipping him to the States. We're shipping him somewhere that will foster his sport or even music or anything with creativity, somewhere that fosters it. I mean, I don't want to get into the politics of it, so I'm going to throw the question back over to what we were talking about earlier. I mean, biggest PR blunders, I'd say, in sports, and then we'll relate it to the CrossFit. I don't know if you guys are aware of what happened with CrossFit. Do you have any background with that?
I do CrossFit. I follow CrossFit. Aziz is not really much into it, so he doesn't know. So it'd be mainly, I guess, more on my side.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So have you been following up with it at all?
Yeah.
I just know the bit.
No, that's good. I mean, look, long story short, do you want to tell them? I mean, Glassman came out, made a statement, said Floyd 19.
Yeah.
All hell broke loose.
It wasn't just that. I mean, I heard your episode and with Haya Sharhan.
She broke it down beautifully. That episode, she broke it down amazing.
And basically what it was is there was also another affiliate owner. Affiliate is basically a CrossFit gym owner. And I think she emailed Greg Glassman. She was appalled by they weren't taking any action with Black Lives Matter or whatever. And he was very rude. I saw the email. I mean, he was very, not just rude, very tone deaf. Does not really care how people perceive him, which I get. Sometimes you won't, there are people you just don't like talking to, whatever. But sometimes there's a way of communicating. So basically that broke loose and it went viral. And one CrossFit athlete started spreading it. Another did. And I don't know. You can take it from there, man.
Yeah, everyone's been. I mean, athletes have been dropping out of the games. You have Glassman, he stepped down as CEO. Then Castro came in, and then last night, Haya Shalhan posted that CrossFit was bought away from Greg's out. So everything that I mean, let's look at it from our perspectives. Okay, from the sports side of things. And we can all talk about the sports blunders that have gone on over the years. The NFL with concussions, the MLB with racism, the MLB with not allowing homosexuals in the major leagues, with not, the MLB, I think, has cultivated PR messes over the last 50 years. The Chicago Black Sox, where they all bet against their own team, same thing with basketball, same stuff. You want to say something? Go ahead, man.
I was going to say, Azuz, I mean, as much as he doesn't watch CrossFit, if you want to talk about ownership and higher management, he goes on a rant, so, especially when it comes to basketball, baseball. So he'll relate to us when we talk about CrossFit.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, Aziz, I'm sure you've seen that where someone up top says something, screws up the sport. Aziz, you could probably answer this the best if that's the case.
Yeah. So
talk about the bounce back for these sports and how big they are in their bounce back, as opposed to
in bounce back, you mean how they affect the players or the image?
How it affects the entire image and the sport as a whole, and how they usually bounce out of it because they're Goliaths, so to speak.
I'm gonna use one example that happened recently, and pretty sure Mo knows it. The Knicks with what is his name again?
Dolan?
No, yeah, Nolan and the famous Knicks guy, Spike Lee. What they did was they blackballed Spike Lee on his way to a game. So he has his entrance for like 40 or like 50 years. He always goes through this entrance to watch a Knicks game. On this game, they didn't let him go. They told him, no, you need to go to the front entrance and like enter like any normal fan. And like they forgot like the 50 years and the huge money he spent on their franchise just because like they are like, I don't know, like what made them do this to him, but
It wasn't them. It was James Dolan. I'm a Knicks fan. I'll tell you that. It was him.
okay, but I'm trying to be nice, Mo.
Just say it. Just say it, man. It's painful.
So like this guy is that Mr. Knicks, like literally Mr. Knicks, and they kicked him out on that day, and he still goes. By the way, he still goes to the matches. He still says like, if I'm allowed, I'm gonna go to those matches. But the hate they had, like Kevin Durant was a free agent before this season, him and Kyrie Irving. So they had their whole picks of teams, like literally people begging them, please come over. Even like Kevin Durant was on a winning team, like on a triple winning team. So the hate that the Knicks had and the bad reputation this Knicks has, like it literally blew them to Kyrie and Kevin Durant to the Nets. And the Nets are like a new team. And I think Mo will tell you, like I told him, this is a new brand that could be something in New York. And he says, no, it will never be the Knicks. But the Knicks will never be something with Dolan in there.
Basically, that's what it is. I mean, he's always basically just trolled me about the Knicks and James Dolan, because that just is one example, like how an owner just is so stubborn and just constantly ruins the reputation of the whole organization. And that's maybe one example where teams don't bounce back, you know, where you have the whole league is on a different level and he's somewhere else.
NBA is known like for very bad ownership, like going into extreme territories. Like, do you have the Knicks? You had the Clippers. The Clippers one was very famous.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They still have the worst contracts in sports too, right? If I'm not
They
mistaken.
do.
It's them and then NFL have like the two worst contracts.
Yeah, NBA are slightly better, but yeah, like even Aziz was like, he just recently got into baseball like the past 2 years. And he was surprised like how baseball contracts are long.
Dude, it's
and
guaranteed money, man. I love baseball.
Exactly.
It's just guaranteed money.
I would definitely be at baseball. I would work night and day for baseball instead of like basketball. Like
Definitely.
guaranteed.
Just for the listeners on my side, Spike Lee, he's a producer, right? He's a producer and a director, and he's a huge fan. Just so people know, he's a huge basketball fan.
He's a huge basketball fan, and he like made very iconic TV shows and like movies before. But Mo would most likely know. Like he followed him.
Knicks. He's done the Michael Jordan commercials. He's done He Got Game with Denzel Washington and Ray Allen. If you guys know him.
I'm pretty sure Mehdi knows him.
Yeah.
I mean, no. I mean, the listeners. Yeah.
If I don't know who Ray Allen is, I got to retire as a half American. My mother will disown me. Are you kidding me? But it's like when I tell people, the best Bulls team was when Scottie Pippen was there, and you had Cooks, right? It was Cooks. Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, and then there was what's his name? I'll probably get Stephen Cooks. I think Stephen Cooks, right? Or Kukoc.
No, Stephen Kerr.
Kukoc. It was Kukoc.
Yeah.
It was Kukoc. And I say Kukoc, and they're like, who? I'm like, dude, you don't know who Kukoc is? Like, that's just like, it's almost like common knowledge to know that team. Have you guys watched the Jordan series on Netflix at all?
Yeah.
We did an episode about it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm on episode 1, and I was like, dude, this is awesome. But sorry, I didn't mean to go off topic, but to go back to it. I mean, you're right, dude. Organizations, it's a little bit harder to bounce back. I agree with that. But I mean, look at the Red Sox, though. Granted, it's a bad example when they had the chicken and beer scandal in 2008 or 9, where the guys were, drinking beer in the dugout, chicken.
Yeah.
It was a PR mess, but, they bounced back and they didn't really lose. We call them in Boston pink hatters. A pink hatter is someone that's, they jump on the bandwagon because the Red Sox are winning and they want to be part of the Boston Red Sox scene, where real fans would like kind of boycott and be like, dude, you guys are, drinking beer, going out on the field, you're assholes, and it's just like that bounce back for them was quick. The Yankees had scandals with A-Rod. That was quick.
Definitely.
MLB had the huge steroid scandal in 2000, from 2005 to 2007, where they thought it was really going to impact the game. You had Barry Bonds, who was nabbed. You have Roger Clemens, Mark McGwire, the guys who set the stage for the game.
So this is my question. Sorry, not to cut you off. But with baseball, don't you have what's funny is that you always have another scandal sort of making the last scandal disappear and insignificant. And I always found that interesting. I mean, recently,
right now they're juicing the balls. Like that's the latest scandal is pitchers are coming out there like, dude, you're not juicing the players anymore. You're juicing the baseballs. They're more bouncy. And it's amazing. But I think that might be part of their plan, or, they're just really stupid. I don't know. But they're mammoths when it comes to sports. Just like when the FIFA scandal came out with Qatar. I mean, you guys could probably talk about that.
With FIFA, we just knew it was not going to stop. It was just even indicting them and everything. That didn't really do anything. We knew that was not going to do anything.
But we saw player got jailed.
Yeah, I mean,
that was something.
Oh, that was. But I mean, you saw the elections. We saw people we know from this region there supporting Blatter. And then they had the elections again when Blatter got arrested. And the same group of people were supporting Infantino. He's from Blatter's sort of inner circle, party. Yeah. It's I think, I don't know, Mehdi, I think you're touching on this, taking it back to CrossFit. I see all these sports like FIFA, I see MLB, I see all these big organizations. They're organizations. They're not companies. With CrossFit, I was telling my wife, and she's been actually keeping up with me. And she's just like, Greg Glassman, he stepped down, but he still owns everything. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, that's what I don't get either. Until yesterday, CrossFit got bought by someone else. But in my head, I was like, who is going to buy CrossFit? Who has that money and is willing to invest in something like that? Where let's talk about them. The richest people in the world are investing in most popular sports in the world. You have all the big owners there. You have Steve Ballmer in the NBA. You have John W. Henry in baseball and in soccer now. You have the Glazers. They're in soccer and in NFL. So you have all these big time owners. Who's going to take over CrossFit? I found that interesting. I always thought CrossFit should eventually become an organization, or does that just make them even more evil? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Here, Aziz.
Both.
No,
guys,
definitely not me.
I mean, I agree with you. Honestly, I saw when Greg stepping down and Castro going in and them selling the company. All I looked at my wife last night and I go, this idiot just bought a sinking ship. Because they are not the mammoth sport. They're a baby. They're not even a baby. They're a tadpole in a huge pond. And I don't see CrossFit making it back front and center like they were a few years ago. Even if you look at franchise growth across the world globally, it has been flatlined for the last year or two. And people have stopped buying into the affiliation. More and more people are taking a shift to functional fitness, and more people are still bashing it. I think CrossFit is a beautiful sport, to be honest with you. CrossFit revived the deadlift. CrossFit revived the squat. It revived so many movements in so many different categories. But I think it was just set up wrong, where they it was a privatized sport, like you said. And now it's gone through a PR scandal. And you go through a PR scandal like this and your fan base is already low and not growing. It's done in my book. If Under Armour is taking over functional fitness competitions, forget about it. Under Armour, they know what they're doing. CrossFit screwed up 2 years ago when they dropped out the masters category, the teen category, and this. It's then you're eliminating all these people that were involved in your CrossFit games, and then you centralize it only to the athletes, and you completely forgot about what it was about, where anyone could do CrossFit, anyone could try out to be the fittest in the world. So, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think there's a bounce back for them?
For me, I feel like there might be a chance. It just comes down to what are they willing to sort of sacrifice to make people happy? Like you said, there's a lot that they were losing even beforehand. And for me, like you were saying, they cut out a lot of things, especially like the regionals and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, the regional. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Every year, if you do the open, you're paying for it. Over time, less and less people are actually they are participating, but they're not participating. They're not paying to participate.
Kuwait numbers were down last year. Kuwait numbers were dramatically down, especially for the men.
Definitely. And because we all know the one guy who's going to probably win it, he deservedly so. And it's also because it's CrossFit, like you said, it's a sport, but I don't think they've acknowledged that the gym atmosphere, the affiliate is different from the competition. I don't know what you like.
Yeah.
That's my take.
It was a nice race this year between Khalid and Nasser Rouaya. Nasser, he came out and won the Kuwait, won it for Kuwait. He's the fittest in Kuwait. He was on the show. We had an episode with him. He's a great guy, really nice. Same with Khalid. They're both really nice guys, great athletes. Khalid is Special Forces, I believe, also. So he competes on that level with the Special Forces. And, when you saw the numbers dwindle, dude, I shouldn't be in top 20 in Kuwait. Okay. I should not be there. A 37-year-old man with white straggly hairs on his beard should not be in there. I shouldn't be in the top 30. So where is everybody? Why didn't they participate? And your numbers were so high before with the expats that were really good. So why the numbers died? The sport died. The sport's slowly dying.
I think a lot of what's going on with the Black Lives Matters movement and everything, I think it's also shed light that CrossFit's also been pretty much a sport for a very small community or small demographic of the world.
And let's be realistic. It's a white sport. Let's be 100%. Rarely have I walked into a box in the States and seen a black person. I've seen Chinese people. I've seen different nationalities. But when it comes down to it, it's predominantly a white sport. You predominantly see white people participating in the games. It's not...
Definitely.
And again, there's probably a reason. There's more money in other sports for, the better athletes. Like if I can play in the NFL, I'm going to go play in the NFL, the NBA.
Definitely.
I'm not going to go do CrossFit. What money are you going to make there? Matt Frazier probably pulled in 2, 3 million, 4 million. Whereas you go to the NBA, that's your signing bonus.
And on top of that, you have it's not just the white sport. It caters a lot to officers, people in military, people who are just they're serving country, not just the US, but even in Kuwait. I've noticed a lot of the guys at CrossFit gyms, they work for Ministry of Interior. Some are firemen, some are in the, like you said, Special Forces. So that's 2 demographics, but they're very niche. And like you said, if you're a good athlete, why would you play anything else? I even had this argument once, a few years ago at the gym where I'm we were trying to tell a guy, if you're athlete at CrossFit, doesn't mean you're good at everything else. It's a great sport, but the problem is some people, we were trying to tell this guy is that CrossFit can actually improve some of your abilities in other sports and make you even more well-rounded athlete. And I think they just haven't taken that opportunity where it can go hand in hand. They've sort of isolated themselves as being just the fittest or the most aggressive or a fittest sport ever. I don't know, So there's a lot of things you can point out at.
I was watching the games in 2012, I think, where they had the throwing event where you had to throw a softball as far as you could. I think the maximum distance... They had that? Yeah, they had that. And the maximum distance was 260 feet. And I looked at my wife and I go, if I was in that event, I would have killed them, Because I'm a baseball player. I've thrown my whole life.
Yeah.
But that goes to show you when they say CrossFit, it's not crossing into every sport. It's not. How many events in CrossFit have you seen? All right, yeah, okay. 1 basketball shot, 1 burpee. 1 basketball shot, 1 burpee. How many consistently can you go? They're not going to do that.
No.
Kick a soccer ball as far as you can, or dribble a soccer ball. That's your WOD. Dribble a soccer ball. How many times can you kick it in 1 minute? That, if you want to call CrossFit and you want to say CrossFit, a crossover of every sport, it should involve every sport, including hockey.
I always loved the sprints because the sprints were sort of showed who was so focused into the typical CrossFit workouts, the barbells and the box jumps and whatever.
100%, yeah.
That they ignored running. And because I've always loved running. Running was always important for me, especially when I was leaner for football and everything. Running is people don't get, running, a lot of it is not just the fact that it's not just you have the technique. Sometimes you just have the natural ability to run. I've seen grown men join CrossFit, but they still don't know how to run.
Or you train it. You train it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an ability I think people really ignore. Even I've noticed in WODs, it's just, go run because it's just running. What do you mean? And people don't really understand what their body's going through while they're running. And so I feel not to go on and rant about running, but there's these little small things where they're sort of ignoring the bigger picture about what your body is doing, your fitness. They do promote it to an extent, but then I feel they miss a lot of marks.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you 100% on that. It's just, I love it. I think it's a great way to stay fit and healthy. And I think it's a great way to stay competitive at later years after you finish your sport. I know a lot of guys that have stopped playing, their sports professionally, and then they went over into CrossFit because A, they still wanted to compete, or B, they needed something that high intensity, which reminded them of their playing days. Me being one of them. I do CrossFit because I love to compete. Like, it's in my DNA. I can't throw a baseball anymore. If I throw, every time I've gone out the last year and I've played in a baseball game, my arm would be hanging for 2 or 3 days, and just the pain would not go away. And that's what you get for throwing a baseball for 20 plus years. And I just wish CrossFit would have more sports things in it. I think that would be I think that would be cool. I think that would be real cool if there was like shoot a basketball, kick a soccer ball into a goal, maybe have like a penalty shootout type of deal. Shit like that would be awesome, to be honest with you.
Home run derby would be enough, to be honest. I mean, I would love that.
Dude, just hit a baseball. Get a bunch of CrossFitters, give them a bat and say, I'd love to challenge CrossFitters and be like, all right, dude, you can play any sport. All right, hit a fastball from this guy,
That's so true. Like I've been telling Aziz, well, there's 2 things I've been telling Aziz. I've been telling him, 1, come join me at the gym, but he's like, no, you go too early.
Yeah, 5 is too early for me. Sorry. 5 is too early.
2, I'm telling him, join me, play softball or baseball here when we play. When we play the just adult league, just for fun. Like, try it out. And I'm telling him, like, whenever we're watching a game, I'm telling him, you really don't understand. Even when it's like 70 miles per hour, it's still hard to hit.
Oh yeah,
and it's also very exhausting too when you're like constantly swinging. And people don't get that. It's not a joke. Baseball is not a joke.
You tried it coming in fresh. Like, you completely tried it coming in fresh, and like, dude, it's not. Like, I give credit where credit's due. Doing a snatch and a clean and jerk is equally difficult. It's very difficult, but you can muscle it up. Like, to be honest with you, you can use your muscle and brute strength. With hitting a baseball, that's a lot of practice and a lot of coordination that you kind of got to get used to and having quick hands. And I'm not downplaying. CrossFit's a great sport. People are going to hate me, especially my listeners, because we have a lot of CrossFitters, which is fine. But at the same time, you can't compare CrossFit to professional sports like hockey, baseball, basketball, football. And in my opinion, I think hockey's the hardest of all sports, to be honest with you.
I've heard so much. I've watched a bit because I actually studied a year abroad in Canada. I went to a semi-professional game there and I was just amazed by what they do. That sport is intense. And even like me and Aziz always say, like, we want to get into it, but we don't even know where to start. That game's crazy.
Oh, it's one game that I know where you really need a shit ton of coordination to actually be good at. I tried it a couple of times and I could not skate and shoot at the same time. Let's just put it that way.
It takes so much effort to skate alone, man. I can barely do it at full speed.
Yeah.
All right, well, we just touched on a bit of some topics. We have one question for you, though.
Sure, man.
All right. So we talked about all this coordination and all that, the abilities it takes to play all these different sports. I've been sort of ranting on Aziz's ass for the past few weeks about Barry Bonds.
Wide. A lot.
The reason I grew up watching him, yes, I know all the allegations. But to me, when I think about steroids, and not just baseball, if you PEDs in general, with sports, they'll give you an advantage. But if you don't have that natural skill, it's not good for anything. I think why it's such a big deal in the Olympics is because that's a physical, like you said, like CrossFit. You can muscle it out. You can push it out, leg it out. With sports, there's an ability to it that if you don't have it, PEDs are really going to be just redundant. That's my take. So I want to see your take.
Now, here's where I differ, and I differ a little bit just because I saw so much of it in baseball. I think that was the best sport to use as an example because it was running rampant. And then they did, in my opinion, a really good job at cleaning the sport up. I still think athletes still use it. But at the same time, they're calling out some of the biggest names in the MLB. Guys that won MVPs were caught doing steroids. But when it comes down to PEDs and when it comes down to steroids, if you look at Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Bobby Bonilla, if you look at all these guys in the steroid era, Juan Gonzalez, who else? Gary Sheffield is another one.
A-Rod.
Gabe Kapler, A-Rod, all these guys, okay? Let's look at their numbers. Let's take a real good look at their numbers. Let's look at Barry Bonds. Before steroids, he was still putting up 35 to 40 home runs a year. With steroids, add another 15 to 20. And then one season, add 30, add 40. So there is an element, in my opinion, that affects the central nervous system, which allows you to recover and allows your brain to recover a lot faster. Because if you think about it, if you're taking PEDs, you're more confident. You're more boasted about yourself. When you're in the batter's box, you feel that confidence surging through you. And you just know, I'm going to connect and it's going to go over the fence. Whereas if you don't have steroids and you have to just rely on your natural ability, then you turn into a player like Derek Jeter, who sprayed the ball to all fields. You know, Derek Jeter was a great hitter, by the way.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the best shortstop hitters. And I think the most he hit in a year was like 30 home runs, if that. But
I think it was less.
Probably less than that, but he was still a 380 hitter. He still had a season where he hit 380. He won some batting championships. If he had done steroids, he probably would have hit 50 home runs, guaranteed. Maybe he did steroids. I don't know. But in reality, there were a lot of players that did roids and their numbers surged. And then as soon as they came off their roids, they went spiraling down. And most notably, a Red Sox player, David Ortiz. David Ortiz, when he was named out in the Mitchell Report in 2008 or 2007, look at his numbers in 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, all the way up until 2013, 14, and 15. His numbers went down in terms of home runs. I think he hit 45, 50, 45, 40, and then they just kind of went down. They spiraled. And I think, speculating, as a Red Sox fan, I hate to say this, but I think he was probably on the juice. Hell, Manny Ramirez was caught doing juice. David Ortiz was probably doing juice at the same time.
I mean, A-Rod, he was going down for a while in the late
100%,
2000s.
Yeah, 100%.
He just spiked up again. I mean, even everybody knew it. So you can't deny, it does, there is an element where it gives you, like you said, not the skill, but more of that recovery, that edge, that sharpness. And again, that leads to confidence.
100%.
So,
A-Rod was biogenesis, man. I recommend, if you haven't seen that documentary, oh man, Jesus, that's a good documentary.
I think I'm more than halfway through. I fell asleep, so I had to turn it off. But I saw most of it.
Yeah.
And they actually touched on that. They said that, he was just not feeling confident, whatever. And then whatever he took, he was like, I feel great,
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you feel like a 20-year-old again. And it's amazing how it works. And when someone tells me, oh, in CrossFit or whatever, steroids don't make that much of a difference. Yeah, they do. Like, you're a punk. If you're competing against me and I'm clean, you're an asshole. You're just an asshole. Professional sports, in all honesty, no one's clean. Let's be realistic.
No. Nobody.
90%.
We have a strong opinion on this. We always say, even the sports where organizations are denied, because steroids has always been attributed with baseball and getting bigger, getting juiced up, and bodybuilding. But there are sports, look at Lance Armstrong. That's one example. He's a cyclist. He's lean. So me and Aziz will always say, football, soccer.
Oh,
they're
100%.
playing 60 games. They're running with all those miles, those kilometers.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Dude, Maradona had Coke fall out of his pocket. Maradona had Coke fall out of his pocket in the middle of a game. I mean, come on. It doesn't even get any worse than that. You're going to tell me all...
But with Maradona, it's different. Maradona was on stuff that made him feel good, but didn't necessarily made him play good. When it comes to Cristiano Ronaldo, this guy didn't get injured for 5 years straight. He just had 1 day or 3 days out. That's it.
Wow.
This guy, for 5 years, it's one of the wonders of the world if you saw him on an injury list.
He's getting the same shit Tom Brady gets.
Yeah. Him and LeBron too, and LeBron as well.
Yeah, LeBron was my second one.
Look, steroids that's a whole new show, man. You guys got to come back on. I can talk about steroids for hours.
We have no problem about that. Check out we had an episode on cheating, but I think we ranted more on steroids and then a bit on the Astros, but you can check that out.
Oh, dude, the Astros. Oh my God. Why you got to bring up sore subjects, dude? Right where we're at. That's a good one, dude.
We just got to let it out. It's Thursday, weekend's coming. We just got to let it out.
Oh, dude, the Astros. The Astros scandal is, it broke my heart. Altuve broke my heart. I love Altuve, the smallest guy in the league, the underdog. Turns out he had a freaking wiretapper on his shoulder. Whether it's true, to be honest with you, even if it is true, look, growing up in baseball, I've stolen signs, okay? It's part of the game. You steal signs. They went a step further with videos and all that. But at the same time, it's still fucking hard to hit a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, even if you know it's coming.
For us, we were just really angry. But for me, I'm kind of middle because you know how athletic they have to be to do that. But the fact that they do it real time, it just so frustrates you.
Yeah, but there's one thing that made made this really bad for me and like put it into perspective was Mike Trout coming out and saying like, this should not happen because I'm like the best player in the league and knowing what's coming is going to make it like 10 times easier.
100%. That is kind of true. I mean, at that level, probably, yeah. But I mean, still hitting 100 mile an hour fastball off Chapman. You know, it's
well,
dude,
on the outside too, on the outside corner.
I know, right, dude?
Chapman knew, like Chapman knew. He had the whole like body language of someone knowing something was going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, like that's a whole other topic we can get into sometime. Guys, seriously, thanks for coming on the project. Thanks for letting me on your show. This was awesome.
Thank you for just talking with us, you know, man. I mean, who knew Red Sox and Yankees fans could get together?
Hey, man, it's just sports fans at the end of the day. That's what it comes down
to. Definitely. We should do this again for sure.
100%, man. All right. Thanks, man.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at the Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.